side so that you can back. Before we, I call this meeting to order, just to let you know that Z0422 has been left out of your packet. They're going to print it off the master and will be distributed to us during the meeting. So I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, October 26, 2022. Crystal, would you please take attendance?
Commissioner Newman,
Present.
Commissioner Hughes,
Present.
Commissioner Godfrey,
Present.
Commissioner Gray,
Present.
Commissioner Spranger,
Here.
Commissioner Laws, not here. Commissioner Morris,
Here.
Mayor Banky,
Here.
Vice Mayor Reynolds.
Present.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, which is a separate addition of the September 28th meeting. Could I please have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the September 28th meeting minutes as presented.
I support. Okay.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, would you please give a voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Thank you very much. Crystal, do you have any correspondence for us?
Yes, there was two, it's included in their concerns are highlighted. It's the one with the red text on it. And then there's one on the back as well. Someone was also requesting something, but the staff will have to address that, so
Thank you.
have a look at those.
Are there any deletions or additions?
No additions or deletions.
We'll now move into the public hearing section of the meeting. Crystal, the first, would you please present special use permit S-14-22?
Petition from Kelly Gast requesting a special use permit for property located at 24 Golden Avenue, Battle Creek, Michigan, 49015. The request is for an in-home group childcare home for up to 7 to 14 children. The property is zoned R1A Single Family Residential District pursuant to Section 1240.06 of the zoning code.
Thank you. Susan, I believe that you're presenting this.
Yes, thank you. Petition S-1422 from Kelly Gast the request is for an in-home group child care home for up to 7 to 14 children. Currently, our zoning ordinance allows up to 12. Back in June of this year, the state legislature approved the definition for a maximum of 14. So right now, the board is able to approve up to 12. If and when we get the text changed to conform to the new state definition of child care group home, then it can go to 14. This is in a R1A single-family residential district. And the subject site is a total of 22,781.88 square feet, or a little over half of an acre, with a 1,688 square foot home constructed in 1964 and a 528 square foot garage. Crystal, I don't know if you have figure 2. You can scroll to figure 2 in this one so people can see what the home looks like. The applicant is proposing to have an accessory use of a home-based daycare of up to 14. Of course, you can approve up to 12, but it was advertised for 14. Recognizing that there is generally a shortage of daycare for working people in the state of Michigan, the legislature this past June increased the maximum number of children for a state licensed child care family home, which is an accessory use by right for up to 7 children now, and the maximum number of children for a child care group home from 12 to 14. Figure 1 shows 24 Golden Avenue, located on the south side of Golden Avenue between North Brewer Drive and Capitol Avenue Southwest. The driveway at the subject property is located 300 feet from the intersection with Capitol Avenue to the west and 150 feet from the intersection with Brewer Drive to the east. The property is adjacent to other single-family residences on all sides, except for the apartment buildings north across the other side of Golden Drive. The applicant currently has a purchase agreement for this subject property. The current owner's permission letter to apply for this special use is an attachment along with her application at the end of this report. The scope of the project, the proposed capacity, of course, in this request is for up to 14, consistent with state law for these types of facilities. The plan is to provide child care between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. each day, Monday through Friday throughout the year, with possible evening or weekend care if allowed. There may be 1 or 2 employees in order to comply with the state of Michigan requirements. The State of Michigan Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, or LARA, administers the licensing program that is required for all daycare facilities. In other words, we don't have control or the ability to dictate the interior of the house or space per child. The state handles all of these kinds of things, as well as the number of employees that are required per a certain group of children. The state regulates the actual operation and other facets of daycare. The complete set of state regulations can be found on the LARA website, Child Care Licensing. And just as a reminder, our zoning ordinance requires that all group child care homes shall be registered with or licensed by the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs or successor agency. Staff finds the request consistent with the general special use standards listed in 1281.05. They have a fairly long driveway, enough to support 4 to 5 cars lined up at the same time. There's a little turnout section of the driveway, and in general, we find that there wouldn't be any more noise or nuisances from this than any other home at this point that also has a lot of children. Okay, therefore, as the request meets the general standards listed in Chapter 1281.05 as outlined above, planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Commission approval of special use permit S1422 that would allow a group daycare home at 24 Golden Avenue with the following conditions. And we have the usual conditions listed. All necessary approvals and any required permits should be obtained. The approval of the special use is based upon the contents of the submitted application, and also, of course, for 12, it was advertised for 14, but it can only be up to 12 children for now. And any certificates of occupancy for special uses shall be valid for a period established by the City Commission or as long as the use is established and maintained in conformity with plans submitted and approved. And of course, the Planning Commission can add additional conditions to those listed above, postpone, articulate revised rationale, or deny the subject application. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for you. If this is approved and the city gets to the point that they're agreeing with the state for 14 children, will it have to come back, or will that occur automatically?
And in emails with the city attorney, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this one in particular would not have to come back because it's been advertised for 14. Is that correct, do you think?
That much is correct. To further answer your question, before that would occur, the Planning Commission and then the City Commission would have to go through the process of amending the local ordinance to increase capacity up to 14. So that has yet to occur.
Having that done, though, then it would automatically occur if the ordinance was amended.
Well, this one depends how you vote at the end. I believe the recommendation is to put that condition upon the approval. city staff has not yet looked at how these changes are going to impact existing group child care homes. Just started looking at the amendments to MCL 722.111 yesterday, and I noticed that there are some substantial requirements for group child care homes that they will have to satisfy with the state even to increase their capacity.
Okay, thank you. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there someone here that would like to present this to the commission? Please step forward to the microphone, tell us your name and your address and how you're related to this request. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Kelly Gass, and my husband and I live in D.C. currently, but I've been running an in-home child care.
Speak to the commission, please.
In-home child care for 13 years in the UP. 3 of those years were group child care, and the others were family child care. But we have a lot of friends and family in Lower Michigan, and honestly, last year we had over 325 inches of snow, and we love to have the kids outdoors and playing, and it's a lot more fun when you're trying to find time to also shovel 4 times a day. And we just would like to be closer to friends and family and have weather where we can grow a garden and not have it freeze before it ripens. And we like Battle Creek for the community, and we believe that's a
Well, if they are, we'll ask you to sit back right behind the mic there in the bench, and as we proceed, if there are questions, then I'll ask you to come forward and address that.
Commissioner Godfrey, can we just pause the meeting? We just realized over here that the microphone is not there.
Yeah.
We need to locate the microphone so that everyone can hear what speakers are saying.
Could you people hear her? Some?
Is this it?
I think you said something about you have an old snowmobile you don't want?
Right here.
Plugs in, but they just stick it down.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
It's not on.
check it. They're all on.
He's just the access guy. I think Crystal has the controls. Yeah. If nothing else. Or get ID.
Is a handheld mic available?
We have this one.
I think at this point in time, everybody's going to have to speak louder. Okay,
Okay.
let's, with this, let's proceed and ask who would like to speak, either in favor of or opposed to, in a moment.
Is the handheld mic available?
I just tried them, and neither one of them are responding.
So you need new batteries.
Yeah.
Who else would like to speak? We've got 1, 2. All right. Ma'am, if you would come forward and under the situation, please speak loudly. identify your name, your address, and how you're involved with this request. Speak louder, please.
My name is Janine Reichert. I live in the neighborhood of 261 Newland Drive. We've lived in the neighborhood for approximately 20 years, and there's many people within that subdivision that also have lived in the neighborhood way over 20 years, and a couple of others. I do want to make sure that Kelly has the original restrictions and reservations that were put on file when that property was developed on January 28th, 1957. I'd also like to share that our neighborhood has changed too over the last few years. We have several new families in our neighborhood, and many have many little children. So for Kelly's sake and for the sake of the children she's going to care for, I hope that the city would come forward and put together children at play within our neighborhood and along Golden Avenue there. I realize there's a path going up the park, and that park is really utilized by families. So for just the safety, I hope the city will come forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other speaker, please. And again, tell us your name, your address, and your relationship to this request.
I'm Talia Champlin. Hi, everybody. And my address is 166 South Lincoln Boulevard, but I'm the realtor that represents the seller in this transaction. The seller went to the immediate neighbors and provided, and all but one he was able to reach, and they provided information to you saying that they were fine with, or fine is, I guess, a good word, with the use of the property. And I called St. Mark's, which is the nearest child care that I knew of. They have a 2-year waiting list for 2-year-olds, a 4-year waiting list for 3-year-olds, and they don't even take a waiting list for 4-year-olds because they know they won't have openings prior to those children starting school. So we have a desperate need in the community and in that neighborhood for childcare, and I'm excited that Kelly is going to help meet that need. Thank you.
Thank you. Another speaker, was there, were you, sir? Were you? Again, please tell us your name, your address, and your relationship.
John Schwartz, 250 Martha Drive.
Thank you.
And I guess first, zoning itself is kind of scary. You can be good zoning, bad zoning. Zoning, mostly for me, has represented the thoughts of changes that don't necessarily create good, depending on the wishes of whoever. We're talking about up to 14 children. That corner is a busy corner early in the morning and afternoon. A large complex right across the street. I don't know how in the heck you can line up 14 cars bringing 14 kids, if that's the case, you know, at the busiest time in the morning and the busiest time in the afternoon. That's not going to be a safe situation, as I see it, unless somebody can explain it better for me. But basically, I'm interested in maintaining the neighborhood as a single-family residential area. And I know that we're getting squeezed from the top, from Columbia down, and we're getting squeezed from the mall in. And what the future, I'm 83, so the future is not necessarily my concern about whether the city comes and goes, you know. But I can see that happening. I've seen it happen in the past, how commercial eventually just squeezes together. So, but there is a safety concern as I can see it, and if you come around those corners and look. But I guess what I'd like to know is why would the board consider doing it? As far as needing child care in the city does not necessarily mean it needs to be located in a residential area that's already not zoned for that purpose. There are other areas that are zoned for it. As far as a need, especially for a lot of kids in the neighborhood, there are not a lot of kids in the neighborhood, There's a lot more than when I came here 34 years ago, that's for sure. But still not. I don't see that as a particular problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else at this time like to speak either in favor or opposed to this action? Seeing none, I will declare this public hearing closed and ask for a motion on this request.
I'll make a motion to approve the special use permit S1422 with the conditions outlined by staff.
I'll second it.
The motion has been made and seconded. Commissioners, do you have questions of the applicant?
I believe the applicant maybe had something else they wanted to add, so I just wanted to ask if it was all right for her to come forward.
Yes, yes.
My childcare in the UP is also right on a highway, and we have crossed it several times to walk to parks and our local co-op for lunch. Very safe walking to different parks across busy streets. I also calculated the census, said that the population percentage of Battle Creek that is under the age of 5 is 6.8%. And then I went down the Great Start to Quality website and totaled all of the child care's licensed centers, in-home family and in-home group, in the zip code of where I am. And with the population of 26,782 people, at 6.8% under the age of 5, that's 1,821 children under the age of 5 that will need childcare unless their parents are stay-at-home or they have babysitters. But there's only 1,238 spots available for childcare, and 338 of those only take preschool age. So there's hundreds of children that still don't have childcare in the zip code of the house. But I am very, very comfortable taking kids on walks and using strollers and baby backpacks, and we've done it for years in the same location, near a busy highway.
Thank you. Any other questions? I do have a question, please. Is the property fenced?
No, but that will be the first thing that we get done.
Okay, I would also like to amend the motion to approve and make that a condition that the property is fenced before they open it.
Support.
Support. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Newman,
Yeah.
your motion.
Yeah, hold on just a second. This is special use though, correct? So does that stipulation apply, or would that be a site plan thing?
You can put the stipulation on with
Okay.
the special use permit.
I am happy to add that to the motion.
Thank
We
you.
didn't hear what the attorney said from
I
here.
said that this body can put conditions on, that is typically a site plan issue, but this body can put conditions on a special use permit.
Any other action? Crystal, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Godfrey?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Springer?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Mayor Banky?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Reynolds?
Yes.
That passes.
Motion is passed. We do thank you very much for your investment in the city of Battle Creek and wish you the best of luck with your facility.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's move on to item B, a rezoning request Z-02-22. And Susan, were you going to, at this point, before we attack this, or Travis, I don't know who.
Yes, thank you very much. So yesterday, I sent out a brief memo to the Planning Commission regarding all of the current zoning requests this month, and then there's one more that's been applied for next month. That's Westbrook.
Got it.
And I just basically, I guess, wanted to, there was a question about the number of zoning requests, and these requests have been brought to staff's attention. They're a combination of individual requests as well as things that staff has noted, discrepancies, for example, in one case, the very last petition on the agenda today.
Let
Discrepancy
me interrupt a moment. This is a loose leaf, one page, not in the packet, with a schematic on the back. Go ahead, Susan. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine, if you want to take a minute to.
I have it. It's a loose leaf.
Yeah, so there was just a question regarding the number of rezonings. So over this last year, we've collected both the citizen requests or property owner requests as well as discrepancies that we've noticed. And we wanted to bring them to you in a group as much as possible. We believe that made a little more sense rather than piecemeal. And we wanted to also affirm the fact that we very much understand that when you've updated a city's zoning map and zoning ordinance that hasn't really been updated in 30 years, and you're doing the entire city and the entire zoning ordinance, you are going to find some incongruencies over time. That's just natural. And I put an example in here. For one example, it is not possible, and this is going to come up tonight with one of the items on the agenda. It's not possible to survey every building's dimensions in the entire city in order to figure out whether or not every building fits the new dimensional requirements in the zoning district to which it's assigned. So there are going to be issues here and there, and we're trying to package them and put them together in a group as much as possible. And we firmly believe in a lot of the ideas and new standards for encouraging. We can see that there's a more economic equality in the reduced footprint, minimum footprint required for single-family homes, for example, walkability, livability, and encouragement of economic development. And we will continue to pursue anything that we see that needs to be amended in there with these thoughts in mind. And then there will be another item later on as far as a request going from an R3 to a Spark district, which is a completely new, evidently zoning district. And it's used usually along with development opportunity centers that were designated on the land use plan map back in 2018. And it is designed to be very flexible to encourage redevelopment through a mix of uses, including a mix of uses within the buildings, yet be of walkable design because these districts generally are in neighborhoods. So it was something that was to be very flexible to try to encourage development and spark some interest in these areas. So you will be encountering this tonight. The one district, the one application for tonight, it actually contains developments on there, but they're existing. And we'd also like to encourage our existing businesses to remain. So that's one of the reasons for this. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you for the memorandum. Appreciate it. Crystal, would you please present request Z-02-22?
Petition from the City of Battle Creek to rezone properties located along Robertson Avenue, Newtown Avenue, West Columbia Avenue, Independence Avenue, and Songbird Lane. Currently zoned as I-2 Heavy Industrial District. Due to the inconsistency with their current use, the city is requesting a rezoning of the area to a more appropriate classification. The City of Battle Creek is requesting the area to be rezoned as R1A, Single Family Residential District pursuant to sections 1240.06 and 1281.01 of the zoning code.
Thank you. Travis, I believe you're presenting this.
Yep. So this proposed request is coming from the City of Battle Creek. to rezone a number of properties that are in the far southwest end of the city from their current zoning of I2 heavy industrial to R1A single-family residential. These properties are located between West Columbia and Newtown, and then just to the southeast of Newtown as well, primarily, and then along Robertson Ave as well. The properties that have been identified here in the staff report have been, I've taken a look at photographic evidence from street views and driving the neighborhood and assessing records to try and determine where the single-family uses are that are along this stretch. The existing single-family uses and properties that are of a smaller size that appear to be conducive to single-family use were the ones that were identified for this. Again, the parcels are along the southeast side of Newtown and along Robertson. Now, if you take a look at page number 5, this staff report for this item, there is a copy of the previous zoning map of this area. So prior to 2020, to the rewrite of the zoning ordinance and the zoning map, this area had a strip of properties that were zoned R1B. Now, R1B under the old zoning ordinance basically equates to what the R1A zoning is now. Basically, single-family residential of a more suburban characteristic, typically slightly larger lots than you would see in what is now R1B. And so the R1A zoning districts seem to fit better with this area now. But again, when you see R1B in the previous, R1A now pretty much equates to what R1B was under the old ordinance. And so the reason this item was brought to staff's attention was staff spoke with a homeowner and a member of the real estate community over the summer regarding the homeowner's attempt to sell their house. And the homeowner was running into difficulties with potential buyers not being able to receive financing because of the fact that these properties had been zoned industrial, heavy industrial, versus their previous R1A, or I'm sorry, previous R1B. And again, they weren't, the property owner was having difficulty selling the house. It appears, in speaking with, again, with members of the real estate community, that lenders are hesitant or not willing right now to make loans, especially for residential legal nonconformities, because of the fact that there is no way to assure that in the event of a disaster or some sort of catastrophic loss or a natural disaster that would destroy the property, that the property could be reconstructed as a single-family use. And so that's I think what's causing the hesitancy amongst the financing community. And so what you're seeing before you today is an effort to try to restore legal conformance to those residential uses, those single-family residential uses, and for two reasons. A, so that future homeowners don't run into this situation where they're having difficulty making sales because folks can't get financing for these houses. B, to relieve them again of that legal nonconforming status, which then puts restrictions on any sort of future alterations or additions they might want to do to the single-family use. And then, of course, C, to provide them the ability to, in the event of catastrophic or complete loss of the house, the ability to rebuild and continue to use as a single-family use. As of right now, with an I2 designation, there is not that ability. Now, in the staff report, it was also discussed that the I2 district right now includes a use category called existing uses. And so staff looked into that and talked through that item with the city's legal staff to try to determine what it was meant by existing use. Unfortunately, the zoning ordinance doesn't give a definition of existing uses or parameters that would outline when a property or when an existing use could be rebuilt or to what degree that property could be destroyed and still be able to be reconstructed as that existing use. And then further, no parameters to discern when an existing use, I mean, using that exact language, ceases to exist, and then does it fall out of that category? So because of all of those ambiguities in the ordinance, we have to view them right now as legal nonconformities, just because we don't have any standards to really use to apply this existing use standard. So that's the reason why you're seeing this before you today. You'll also notice that outside of what was zoned previously R1B, there are properties that are located primarily along Newtown and Robertson, but also Songbird and Independence. And then some properties that the orientation of the homes generally front on Newtown, but may have West Columbia addresses. They were previously zoned either C2 or C3. Now, those zonings were commercial zonings at the time. Staff felt in looking at this, and especially seeing that that's an intact single-family neighborhood right there, felt that it would be that it would be fair to consider those properties as well and try to afford them the same rights that these other single-family uses have in the area, while still trying to identify those properties that are within that area that are being used for commercial purposes or industrial purposes. And so you'll actually see on page 8 of your staff report, there is a parcel map of that area outlined in blue. So everything you see outlined in blue is subject of this request, with the exception of those parcels, those 5 parcels that you see highlighted in red. Those have been identified as larger parcels that are either used already for commercial or industrial purposes, or they're under the control of the Battle Creek TIFA. And so it seemed obviously reasonable to not alter the zoning there and allow them then to continue with their conforming uses. So that's the rationale behind what you're looking at here today. Staff is making an attempt here to help folks out that right now have been rendered legal nonconforming, and because of that, it appears are going to run into difficulties, like I said, when it comes to selling their homes, and so that's why you see this before you today.
Thank you very much. I'll declare a public hearing open. We just heard the city is the presenter. I'm not going to ask him to do it again. Is there anyone who would like to speak either in favor or opposed? Yes, sir, please come forward. Unless your name, your address, and your interest in this particular request.
My name is Wayne Edmonds, live at 4521 West Columbia, and I noticed that there were some properties that were not included on this list. And is that what you were talking about? The one at the corner of Columbia, Columbia and Robertson, and then there's another one that's in Robertson and Newtown that were not on the list. Can I walk? I'm gonna.
You want me to zoom in?
Probably on page 5.
I'm good, I can see that. That's Robertson and Columbia, that one's not listed. Those are owned by, listed as owned by Battle Creek.
Please come back to the microphone, sir.
Those are listed as owned by Battle Creek Unlimited, right? TIFA is what you called it?
I believe, yeah. So there's 5 parcels that were not included. Let me find them real quick. The 5 that were not included were 4417 West Columbia, 4407 West Columbia, an unaddressed parcel on Newtown Avenue, that's parcel number 0069-00-240-0, 4647 West Columbia, and then an unaddressed West Columbia parcel, parcel number 5740-10-546-0.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
That's one of them, yeah. So those will not be zoned for residential, is that correct?
Yes, those are proposed
Okay.
to keep their I-2 zoning.
Okay, let's see, what else questions do I have? What will happen to the property values? Is anything projected there, anything thought of there? Will the property values go down? I guess this is what I'm asking.
So I can't necessarily speak to property values. What I can say is we've spoken with the city assessor.
Okay.
And determined that there will be no difference in the way that the properties are assessed. So properties are assessed based on use, not zoning district. So the zoning district doesn't have any direct impact on the property valuation when it comes to assessing.
But it seems like commercial property historically goes for higher than residential property. And I'm not concerned about me because I plan to live there till I can't. But, one more question. Okay. Where the green school was, the Martin School, I saw on that map, it looked like between Newtown and Renton Road. Is there anything planned for that area?
That is
Any
not,
housing
that is
development?
not covered in this particular action, so I would reject your question, sir.
Oh. Okay. Let me see what else. I guess everything's answered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor or opposed? Seeing none, commissioners, floor is yours. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
I would like to disclose that I currently live in this neighborhood, and I do own my property that is listed in the staff report.
Mr. Attorney, do we have a ruling?
I can see where there might be a conflict of interest, so if he would like to recuse himself from participating in the discussion or voting on the matter and the body concurs in that, that would be appropriate.
Thank you very much for letting us know. No.
So is he going to recuse or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Did you need a motion for that, to accept that, or no?
Yes.
I don't think we do.
Okay, thank
No.
you.
What did he say?
He said he doesn't think we need to.
Would you please call the roll?
We need a motion.
We just need a motion.
You need a motion.
Are you calling the roll for him to recuse himself, or are you calling for a roll, or call the roll for a vote on the petition?
Do we need to have a vote to recuse himself?
No.
No, I was calling it for on the motion, on the request.
Then we need a motion and a second
Okay.
first.
Could I have a motion in support?
I move that we support the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Support.
That would be for Z-02-22
Correct. Thank you.
with the, and it was supported. Motion has been made and supported. Are there any comments? Seeing none, would you call a roll?
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Godfrey?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Spranger?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Mayor Benke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reynolds?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Motion has passed. We will now move on to C, rezoning request Z-03-22. And Crystal, when you're available, would you please present that?
Petition is from Summit Point requesting the rezoning of property located at 175 College Street, Battle Creek, Michigan, 49037. Property located at 175 College Street is currently zoned T3 Neighborhood Commercial District, and they are requesting to be rezoned as, is it still T4? T4 Downtown Commercial District pursuant to Section 1281.01 of the zoning code.
Thank you. Travis, I think you're doing this one again.
Yep. So before I get started addressing this item by itself, I'll just kind of give you an overview of what we're looking at here. This item and the next item on your agenda kind of go hand in hand. They're both related to 175 College, which has submitted, Calhoun County Mental Health has submitted an application for building permits to construct an addition off the north side of their building to serve as a pharmacy that will serve their patients at the facility. Now, when staff reviewed their application for zoning purposes, we were not able to approve it because of the fact that the property right now is zone T3. And while T3 allows for medical and dental clinics, and this would certainly fall under the classification of a medical clinic, it restricts those uses to 5,000 square feet by right, and then up to 20,000 square feet by special use permit. Further, the zoning ordinance treat when uses are restricted by square footage. That square footage is taken as the building that the use is being conducted in as a whole. And so by virtue of that, the building itself right now is roughly 38,000 square feet, so it exceeds that square footage. So by that fact alone, this becomes a non-conforming use. And so without a zoning variance, the permits to alter or to expand the site were not able to be approved. So that's why you're seeing these two items here in front of you. So that hopefully helps give you a little bit of background here before we get into each separate item. So the rezoning item, the applicant has requested a rezoning from T3 to T4 downtown commercial. Now, T3 is neighborhood commercial, T4 is downtown commercial. The property itself is situated along the west side of College Street, approximately 220 feet to the south of the intersection of College Street and Emmett Street West. Prior to the 2020 zoning ordinance map rewrite, the property was zoned O1 office. Medical clinics were permitted in that zoning district, but they did not have the limitations that the current zoning ordinance does on their size. So prior to the 2020 rewrite, they were legally conforming, they were conforming use, and they could have expanded by right. As of right now, they're not allowed to do that. The property, again, is currently legally non-conforming simply due to the size of the use. Rezoning it to T4 downtown commercial would allow for the potential of a special use permit to be issued, which could then allow for them to expand their use in excess of 20,000 square feet. Now, another item that needs to be addressed there, and this more goes with your next item, but again, just to give you some continued background, the zoning ordinance, as of right now, does not, in the T4 zoning district, does not allow as a special use or does not have listed medical and dental clinics of greater than 20,000 square feet. However, they do allow for medical and dental clinics of up to 20,000 square feet as a use by right. Now, the zoning administrator has made a determination that when you look at the T4 list of uses, generally what you see when you look at uses that are restricted as far as their size goes is you'll see a use permitted by right up to a certain square footage, and then you'll see a corresponding, the same use, allowed to a greater degree by special use permit. With regard to medical and dental clinics, they're allowed for up to 20,000 square feet by right, but there is no corresponding special use allowance. To take that further, there is an allowance as a special use for hospitals of greater than 20,000 square feet. And again, as a part of the zoning administrator's determination on this, hospitals were looked at as being a more intensive, a similar but yet more intensive use than a medical or dental clinic. Hospitals are going to have more frequent traffic, obviously coming in and out. Ambulances, larger vehicles with sirens and lights, those sorts of things. A typical medical clinic or a clinic like the one that County Mental Health runs there does not have those features. And so it seemed fair, given that that the zoning administrator would be able to make that determination. That determination is based on Section 1240.21F of the zoning ordinance, which allows for the zoning administrator to make a determination to classify uses which are not specifically mentioned in the zoning code, along with a comparable permitted or prohibited use for the purpose of use regulations in any zoning district. And so again, while that's not necessarily the subject of what you're looking at here, again, just trying to keep providing further background for why we're looking at this request to go from T3 to T4. And so if this rezoning request, again, allowed them to move from T3 to T4, and with that zoning administrator's determination, they would then be allowed to seek a special use permit for that use in greater or at greater than 20,000 square feet. With regard specifically to this rezoning request, there is a single-family neighborhood to the east of this site between North Avenue and Harvard Street. However, a sufficient T3 buffer would still exist even if this rezoning were approved. And additionally, immediately adjacent uses, there are parking lots to the north and the south, commercial to the east across College Street, and institutional multifamily use directly adjacent to the west. And so those uses can be viewed as harmonious with a potential rezoning from T3 to T4. Further, when staff looked at the land use plan, which is included as a part of the adopted 2018 master plan, the land use plan identifies this specific parcel as being neighborhood commercial. Now, while that obviously corresponds with the neighborhood commercial zoning designation, staff also identified on the future land use map the area bounded by the Kalamazoo River to the north and the east, South Washington Ave to the east, the railroad to the south, and South Kendall Street to the west as being identified as neighborhood commercial under the land use plan, but zone T4 downtown commercial as its current zoning. And so based on that, staff does not feel that there would need to be an amendment to the master plan and to the land use plan that would correspond with this. It feels that there is precedent based on the current land use plan and current zoning of another area that would then correspond exactly with the way this area would be zoned, that there would not need to be an amendment made to that plan. With that, I'll try to answer any other questions that you might have. Staff recommends approval of this item, and obviously the item that's coming up would be contingent upon this item being approved by the City Commission. So recommended for approval here and then approved by the City Commission.
Thank you. Is there the applicant? And sir, please state your name, your address, and your relationship to this request.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Richard Lindsay. I'm the outside counsel for Summit Point, the Calhoun County Mental Health Authority, 405 South Jackson. I'm with the Abbott Thompson firm in Jackson.
And you are addressing the zoning request.
I'm kind of talk about both of them and then answer any questions. I don't really have, that was a very comprehensive report, so I don't really have a whole lot to add. We being Summit Point, did open the First Step Center about a year ago, and so there's been ongoing construction to do that, and obviously in the interim, zoning change was made. So as we continue the expansion, eventually we're going to move the downtown offices into this location and also have this pharmacy as part of that. This issue came up when we were seeking to do additional work at that location. We were contacted by the city and went through, I think, a very good process in dealing with the city and how to, what we need to do to come into compliance. We're requesting that both the zoning change and the special use permit be granted. And I'm glad to answer any questions and appreciate your time.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor or opposed to this action? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. And commissioners, the floor is yours. Do you have questions?
I move that we approve the rezoning request of Z-03-22 as presented by the planning.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Crystal, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Godfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Springer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Benke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reynolds.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, that particular the zoning is approved. We will now move to the special use permit, and do we need to go through that again?
I think I pretty much covered it, unless
so.
anyone has any other questions.
Do you have any further comments, sir?
I think you covered everything very well. I just want to point out that the location of the pharmacy on site is very beneficial to our customers, who, again, the idea is that you have that access to get pharmaceuticals as needed on site immediately. So it's very much part of the operation of the
Thank you.
point.
Anyone in the audience that would like to speak against this special use permit? Seeing none, commissioners, questions? Yes.
The only question I had, Richard, is there a reason why they couldn't find room in the facility for this pharmacy instead of building a new addition?
A fair question. I think that and I'll tell you, I've not really been part of the discussion, but I think the idea is to add this as basically an addition to the building. The rest of the building is taken up with the first step, and then administrative offices, again, as the location around the corner here is going to be moved there. And it needs to be built to specific pharmacy standards, and so I think these are just to build on. So, but I wasn't part of those discussions either.
I just want to make everyone aware that this thing really blew up, and I don't know whose fault it really was. I don't believe it was the city's fault because communication started about a year ago, but the construction had been planned for about a month and a half ago. And then they realized that the special use permit would have to be applied for. So it really set the clock back on this facility. And I know a lot of people are probably upset about it, but we're just doing what the law says, and it's unfortunate. But at some point in time, I'm going to ask the city attorney to look and see if administratively we could have at least given a go-ahead and then go through the process. It would seem like that would have saved a lot of frustration, especially when we didn't even have anyone here opposing it, although it is in a neighborhood. So we're very sorry for the delay. The construction company is more upset than anything else.
And I will pass that on to Gene Goodrich as well. Much appreciated. Thanks.
Any other comments? I just, for clarity point, would like to have you say that the pharmacy is for the use of their clients. It's not a pharmacy open to the public.
So we can't close it and say it's not open to the public, but it is primarily for the people that are using the services. So it's not advertised outside. It's not, kind of open to the public.
But
If
made
you walked in and
made
wanted
aware of it, the people in the neighborhood could utilize it?
I believe so. Yeah, it's a licensed pharmacy under state law.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Crystal, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Godfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Springer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Benke,
Yes, but did we have a motion to approve that?
I was wondering that.
Thank you.
I didn't hear one.
Thank you.
and Vice Mayor Reynolds.
Yes.
Passes.
Let's start with a motion,
Yes, sir.
please. My fault.
It's all right.
I'll make a motion to approve special use permit S1522.
Second it.
Wallace.
And I'll move that we have a unanimous ballot.
Commissioner
Okay,
Morris.
thank you.
I move that we have a unanimous vote to save time for the approval of this special use permit.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Then this request, again, is approved. I apologize for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for please convey our thanks to the organization for their continued investment in Battle Creek. We're now going to rezoning request Z04-22. This is coming to you at this present time.
Thank you.
It was omitted from the packet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, in your comments, just be aware that we have not had an opportunity to read this. And I believe that you're presenting.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. This is petition Z-0422, which is a request for rezoning from R3 multiple family to residential S Spark District for 3 properties located at the corner of Lafayette and South Kendall.
I'm trying to
Have it there, yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So if you could go to, let's see, are you on figure 1 there? It's hard for me to see. Okay, great. This is a petition from the owners of the above 3 parcels requesting a rezoning from R3 multiple family to S Spark. This is interesting. This one is not city inspired. This did come to us from the property owners through Mr. Hart, who brought it to our attention. And so we proceeded to write a report in support of this. The 3 subject parcels currently have functioning non-residential businesses located on the parcels. They wish to revert back to the zoning district that included uses similar to theirs. In 2019, if you look at figure 6, I believe it is, yes. That's the old zoning map prior to this one. You can see that these parcels were zoned light industrial. Battle Creek's adopted 2018 master plan identifies this area, including the subject parcels, as one of the city's development opportunity centers, which you can see okay, that would be figure 7. So previously, in 2019, they were light industrial. The 2018 land use map, and let's see, are the classifications, oh, you can't get it all on one screen. Okay, so if you could scroll to the key, maybe is it right above it? Yeah, okay. So within the land use classifications, you can see that there's something called development opportunity centers. And it might be a little difficult to see it on here, but that is overlain on top of multi-use residential. So when we looked at this, we went, ooh, it's multi-use residential, but then we saw the development opportunity centers. And we could see that there are 2 other, so we thought about the Spark District, thank you for your input, because the Spark District includes businesses as well as residential and is being used in 2 other sections of the city right now, both of which are challenged neighborhoods and opportunity development centers. So the city's plan identifies this as a development opportunity center. Okay. And you can see in figure 2, of course, if you're not familiar with this, if you could back up to figure 2. These are the 3 subject properties, kind of all in one shot there. They are at the end of the block, surrounded by streets. So the land use map depicts them as development opportunity centers. And the action plan section of the 2018 master plan has a description of opportunity centers that includes this: as a unique opportunity to support investment that is creative, innovative, and responsive to distinct areas of the community. The description continues, the city should actively seek development within the development opportunity centers and remain flexible to all development proposals to maximize each opportunity. It is important to note that while the land use plan does identify a place type for properties within the development opportunity centers, in other words, in this case, multiple family, the recommendation should be considered only a preferred option. And this is right in the master plan. So in other words, what is in there underneath the development opportunity center overlay is a suggestion. And driving around in that area, I could see that there was a vestige of a neighborhood in that area. However, these businesses do exist. They're right at the end of the block. Thus, while the current recommended land use was multifamily residential, the master plan also states that there is some flexibility available to foster or keep development opportunities. Therefore, other zoning districts like Spark have been assigned, like I mentioned before, to 2 other areas in the city that have similar issues. So currently, of course, these are zoned R3 multiple family residential, and R3 only allows banquet halls, rooming, and boarding houses as businesses, which leaves these existing businesses that are the subject of this petition to become non-conforming uses with non-conforming buildings and setbacks. In other words, if they tried to make improvements, additions, any kind of changes like that, they couldn't. They're non-conforming. So, therefore, staff determined that a rezoning to the Spark District, which would not require a land use plan amendment, that's what we are looking for, would encourage the existing businesses to remain, and the flexibility of the Spark District would also still allow multiple family development if there was development interest. The Spark District includes all kinds of uses except for heavy industrial. The only industrial, quote-unquote, uses it includes are warehouses and wholesale, thereby not potentially impacting nearby residents with the general nuisances that are associated with many industries. In addition, the S-Spark District, while it does not have to meet the form-based guidelines that T districts would, there is a T4, for example, right across the street, right across Kendall from the subject properties. The Spark District, though, also cannot have parking in the front yard. The buildings have to be oriented to the street, et cetera, just like they are now, for the most part, thereby still encouraging future development to fit one major design component of a walkable neighborhood and be compatible with the residential to the west. Analysis and recommendation. And just as a reminder, unlike a conditional rezoning, this is a straight traditional rezoning. Conditions cannot be attached to the regular rezoning. So there are 12 conditions to be considered. We feel that this, after reviewing, this is definitely consistent with the master plan for condition number 1. Because of the description of development opportunity centers contained within the master plan. Number 2, consistency with the basic intent and purposes of this zoning ordinance, which just basically refers back to the master plan, so it meets that. Number 3, the compatibility of the street system. One of the more intensive traffic uses for the Spark District is multiple family, and it already is zoned multiple family currently. Spark also includes hotels and motels, which could be generate some more traffic. We did forward this to the Department of Public Works and did not receive any comments or negative comments from them. Also, South Kendall and Lafayette, I looked it up, are considered major collector streets with plenty of capacity to handle a fair amount of traffic. Number 4, the capacity of the city's utilities and services sufficient to accommodate the uses. As this area was already developed or designated multiple family in the land use plan and was previously developed, this aspect was already reviewed by the city and capacity already exists. Number 5, conditions have changed possibly since the zoning ordinance was adopted or there was an error. Staff, it is not known if these parcels were zoned in error. However, the Spark District designation definitely would encourage the existing businesses to remain and encourage further development due to the flexibility of allowed uses in the district. And if for some reason they ever did leave, it again does still allow multiple family and all kinds and types of residential. Number 6, the amendment does not result in exclusionary or spot zoning. There are 3 parcels, or half of the block, included in the rezoning request. And due to the nature of the Spark zoning district, to assist with implementing the development opportunity centers, and where it's placed in a few other, one fairly small area near Fonda, the whole idea of the Spark District, this fits the Spark District very well, and it is not considered spot zoning. And there is a Spark District not too far down the road from here as well in a neighborhood. So it's not like just in the middle of completely residential area. There's also commercial across the street too on Kendall. If a rezoning is requested, compatibility of the site's physical, geological, hydrological, and other environmental features with the uses. And these are existing businesses, again, and an existing pre-developed, an area that was developed. And the Spark District does not allow industrial uses that could impact water quality. Furthermore, the parcels are not located in a flood zone, wetland, wellhead protection, or any other type of protected area that staff could find on any of the utility or wetland or flood zone maps. Number 8, if a rezoning is requested, compatibility of all the potential uses allowed in the proposed zoning district with surrounding uses in terms of land suitability. And again, this was previously a developed section of the city. And Spark also includes all types of residential and allows mixed uses. It is also a more walkable type of business zoning, while it's really mixed residential and business, as opposed to, for example, the B1, which is strictly a business zoning and allows parking anywhere on the site. If a rezoning is requested, the boundaries, this is number 9, the boundaries of the requested zoning district will be reasonable. Well, this is, again, at the end of a block, and it includes all those businesses currently at the end of the block that are existing there. If a rezoning is requested, the requested district would be considered to be more appropriate than another zoning district. Definitely the Spark District we consider more appropriate because it includes all types of residential. It would allow these businesses to remain without being non-conforming. It is a more walkable type of a business district as opposed to a B1. And it completely follows the development opportunity zones and their purpose in the master plan. If a rezoning, this is number 11, if a rezoning is requested to allow for a specific use, rezoning the land is considered to be more appropriate than amending the list of permitted or special land uses. I'm sure that you would, if you were taking a look at the R3, suddenly putting some business uses in a really strictly multiple family district is not an appropriate way to go. A rezoning is. Number 12, If the rezoning is requested, it will not create an isolated or incompatible zone in the neighborhood. Again, the Spark District we felt was the most compatible type of business mixed-use residential zone next to the multiple family zone in there. It's developed, it was, the Spark District was developed for the purpose of working with development opportunity centers that descended from the master plan. And it is singular to challenged neighborhoods. So based on the above findings, planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Commission approval of petition Z-4-22, request for rezoning of the 3 parcels that are the subject of this petition from R3 to S Spark District. And they are identified in Table 1, list of the 3 subject parcels, addresses, and uses in case you needed to refer to that specifically. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll declare a public hearing open. Do we have the applicant?
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Brian Smith. I live at 9856 Huntington Road in Battle Creek, and I am the president of United States Lumber Company, which is the proprietor located at the subject parcels. I had a question, I guess, to start with. If the Spark rezoning were to be approved, does that allow any light manufacturing?
The most it allows is warehousing and wholesale. Does not allow anything else.
Okay. Well, I'd start by saying I sincerely do appreciate that the city was responsive to this and has obviously done a lot of work to look into this. It wouldn't entirely solve our problem. This kind of came to light for me when we have a location in Dowagiac, Michigan, and both of our stores currently have federal firearms licenses in which we are able to sell firearms. There's a difference, though, in that the location we have in Dowagiac, Michigan, has a license that allows us to manufacture specialized weapons that are used by police departments, predominantly ERT teams, SWAT teams, as well as military agencies or military and government agencies at the federal government level. I attempted to move this license, which within the confines of ATF is a simple change address, and then when they do that, they take a look at zoning. They contact the city and make sure that it's appropriately zoned. And the move was actually denied, and I later discovered it was because our zoning had changed from the previous industrial usage to this residential zoning type. It's alarming to me because we historically have manufactured goods at that site. We have manufactured trusses, wall panels, door systems, and so on, and that's a pretty normal thing, I think, for lumberyards to do throughout the state. And it's also something that we've had to look very hard at as of late because of the labor shortage in the construction trades. It's become obvious to us that we are going to have to return to doing those types of things. And we also had plans to manufacture steel roofing. And I want to be clear, I guess, it'd be difficult to make a decision without this knowledge, but the things we would want to do are not particularly noisy things. They operate inside of a building. They're not something that's able to be heard quite loudly. When I assess, as you correctly did, the neighborhood that we're in, we have, kitty corner from us is Life Care Ambulance, which of course ambulances make a lot of noise. That's the nature of them. Across the street is Tigers Towing. That's, they operate large equipment and big trucks. And of course, on the other side of the road from us is the City of Battle Creek Public Works and their associated facilities, the maintenance facilities. None of the things we do would make any more noise than any of those places. And also, I would add that the location we're at is very close to the railroad tracks, and we're not inside of the quiet zone. We're in that part of the city where the trains still make the full horn sound and everything's at full noise. You got to get a little bit further east of us to get inside that zone of quiet, if you will. So I am certainly appreciative. For certain uses, I suppose this would help us. We've recently launched a new business there. My wife has a staff of people that are doing interior design work that's based at that building, and we know that we're already out of room and we'd like to expand. Our intention, actually, and I'm curious about this as well, There's a lot that is across the street from us on Hamblin Avenue that I think is actually part of our core tax ID. I don't know if you can look at that, but it's a lot on the river, sort of just west of the property previously used for Colors on the Corner. And I think that's actually been, at some point in the past, rezoned and included as part of our core parcel, but that's the lot we'd like to use for construction of a building for the interior design and kitchen department. So, again, I'm thankful for the effort. I'm just not sure if the Spark rezoning would not allow us to do some quiet, low-level manufacturing. It won't exactly solve the problem that we currently have.
Thank you. Perhaps you can, at a later date, talk more with the planning department and get a more definitive answer to your question.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think our contact so far has been through Mr. Hart. But
So if I may address some of these, the Spark District does allow retail sales over 17,000 square feet as well. So in other parts of the city, I don't see why, for example, Home Depot or something like that couldn't fit into the Spark District. And they definitely, they have the ability, of course, to size some lumber and stuff for their customers. So if that's really an accessory use to this business, where you're doing that sometimes, that would fit into the Spark District. If it's something where you literally have a truss or, framing building business, maybe that's a little different. ATF also, I know they look at the zoning, but sometimes they, call things, they call it manufacturing or assembly when it's really just, that's how the equipment is shipped, and then you put it together. Is that what you're referring to? Because I know I worked in another part of the state where they were fine with it in a business district, didn't have to be industrial. Due to the nature of.
To answer your question, yes, it's entirely assembly. There is no manufacturing of core parts or components. There's no machinery involved in it other than small hand tools and things of that sort. But as it is, they won't approve it, or they haven't historically approved it. The city of Battle Creek has not approved it, is what's happened. They have sent the forms to our city for approval. It's required that we, both zoning and the chief law enforcement official, of course, the Clio has approved it, but the city itself has not. And I should also make clear, just because we are talking about firearms, we also don't fire any firearms at the facility. It's strictly a manufacturing center. We have separate facilities that are, used for testing these sorts of things.
So, of course, we would be happy to sit down and, iron some of these things out. It could be possible that you still fit the Spark District, but maybe we'll have to contact ATF and see if the business district is fine with them.
If we could, find it, if the city could find it to be acceptable, it's literally just an autograph from the appropriate official, if that were the case.
Okay, if you'd have a seat, and is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Mr. Hart? Please state your name and your position.
John Hart, Small Business Development, City of Battle Creek, and I just want to make sure, because there is other parcels involved with this, and that owner's not here, but I'm happy to represent them. And they want the same as U.S. Lumber. They just want to be able to continue to grow their business and occupy their buildings as they have in the past. So.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak? I declare the public hearing closed. Commissioners, questions?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we get things working out with ATF and Mr. Smith until we can save his business. They've been there for a very long time, worked very hard with the state and the federals, on their equipment, stuff like that, and the local police departments. And I think we need to do everything we can to support our local businesses. It's been here for a while. It's not like a guy coming from nowhere and wants to come in that area. They've been there for a long time. So I'd like to make a motion that we table this till we get things worked out with with the business there.
Point of order. You can't table it unless you want to bring it back up at this meeting. You can request a postponement.
I'll request a
And
postponement.
you need to provide, do you want to do it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
30, 60, or 90, whatever it takes the city,
No, you make your motion.
90 days.
Support.
Motion has been made to postpone for 90 days. It's been supported. Are there any comments?
I guess the only comment I would have is if they're able to come to a resolution sooner, would they be able to bring it to us sooner?
Sure.
Yes, I agree with that as well.
If you'd take the roll, please, on the motion to postpone.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Godfrey?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Springer?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Mayor Banky?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reynolds?
Yes.
Motion is postponed.
So this is postponed. So we'll see you again. Thank you.
Thank you all. Get a haircut.
Yes, sir.
So we move on to the last action. It's a rezoning request Z-05-22. And Susan, I have you as presenting again.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Take me just a minute to, I had to pull my reports apart here to make copies. This one.
Excuse me, John. I've got to go pick up my son. He was supposed to be picked up at 5, so I'm going to have to leave the meeting. I'm very sorry.
Okay.
I'll go get him for you.
Mark.
This next petition, petition Z-0522, emanated from, actually, we were looking at the daycare and the old Kmart site, and then, of course, the master plan, and noticed that the master plan actually has this entire area that is outlined in Figure 1 in yellow, as much heavier, designated a much heavier commercial than it would normally be for a neighborhood commercial. And that kind of makes sense because these parcels are located for the most part along Dickman Road, although I believe that some of them are along the interior road right next to Dickman down by the bottom there. And the parcels are also larger, and they support larger forms of business and commercial. So this is a petition that's coming from the city, requesting a rezoning of 16 commercial parcels located along Dickman Road from McCamley to Riverside Drive at Goguac and Dickman Road. And the City of Battle Creek's 2018 Master Plan's future land use map, Figure 4, it might be past all of the photographs, okay, which are quite a few. Okay. So you can see that that's designated a heavier more intense type of commercial. Corridor commercial as opposed to neighborhood commercial. So, and the properties to the kind of the north of it, northwest, are zone B1, the other corridor commercial properties. So based on the fact that there is some redevelopment, the city would like to see redevelopment in this area, there needs to be some redevelopment on these properties, and there is currently an interest in the largest parcel there. We decided to go ahead and ask for rezoning from neighborhood commercial to a little heavier commercial, T4, which is downtown commercial. The T4, just like the T3, and I included a table in here comparing all of the uses, has very similar uses, but they're allowed by right to be bigger without a special use. And it includes more flexibility in terms of not requiring parking, but if they do have parking, which most people are going to want to, it still has to follow the zoning regulations for parking. But it's a much more form-based, walkable kind of business district, just like the T3, but just a little more intense and more flexible, allows more height, some more density, and as you can see by the land use map, it's still buffered. There is still some neighborhood commercial all along Capitol Avenue, so that this wouldn't be necessarily right up against single-family homes. In addition, we found support for this in the downtown Battle Creek plan, which was adopted also by the city, illustrating the importance of these properties as a gateway into the downtown and a link between the neighborhood, the river, and hopefully potentially someday a river walk that's mentioned there, and downtown. Thank you. So the idea is to provide more of an incentive for development and more flexibility so that this can be developed, but yet still follow the form-based guidelines and the idea of walkability and connecting the neighborhood to the downtown. And hopefully some of these vacant parcels, I put a lot of photographs in there all along this entire, I photographed every parcel along this entire stretch of Dickman because I wanted to impress upon everyone in the fact that this is all vacant or about to be vacant parcels. So it really could use some help. I think it's obviously pointed out in the downtown plan as quite a unique area along here and could help frame and bring the neighborhoods into the downtown area. So that's basically the idea behind this. And again, there are 16 parcels that I have listed in Table 1, I believe. And again, just running through Table 2, that's okay, Crystal, thank you. Table 2 compares the different uses between the T3 and T4. So on page 14, Table 2 of your report, it shows, first of all, the uses that are permitted in both the T3 and the T4. As you can see, that first chunk, they're all the same. The second chunk of that table shows the same uses, again, for the T3 and T4, except that they are special uses in the T3, but permitted in the T4. So this would be one less hoop for a developer to go through on these parcels. And then down below, they share some special uses, which makes sense. Funeral homes, mortuaries, crematoriums should be special use, more than likely, especially being not necessarily next to the neighborhood, but pretty darn close in a lot of cases. Zoning districts use is not shared by the T3 and T4. So there are a few things such as banquet halls, offices over 17,000 square feet, some drive-in restaurants, a hospital, senior living, and retail sales, et cetera. But it's still pretty similar to the T3. And again, it still has to follow the form-based guidelines. Buildings have to be oriented to the street, parking in the back, and so it's very much like the form-based guidelines that are in the downtown or T5 district that this would lead right into. In addition, right across the street, there is T4. It's all zone T4. So this would match right up, and it's definitely not spot zoning with what's already there. And again, this would not, like the others, need a master plan amendment either, because the master plan, to us, obviously was recommending a little heavier form of business to begin with. And because these areas are vacant, we are recommending that it be T4 to entice some more development and be a little more flexible and have fewer hoops to jump through.
Finished?
So, it is, so for the different conditions, the 12 conditions that need to be considered for a rezone, it's definitely consistent with the goals and objectives of the master plan. And it furthers master plan goals 8 and 9, which encourage transit and incentivizing workers to live in core areas of the city, which this certainly is, both of which rely on density, walkability, and mixed uses. And the downtown Battle Creek plan identifies the subject parcels as part of the core area of the city and a focus of reinvestment. T4 offers the most flexibility without sacrificing the urban form that attracts residents, and attracts a lot of people these days, and acts as a link between the core downtown and adjacent neighborhoods. This is consistent with the zoning ordinance, number 2. And number 3, the capability of the street system. Well, most of this abuts Dickman Road, which is classified as a principal arterial on the National Functional Classification Map. Capitol Avenue, which also runs through some of these, is classified as a minor arterial. And even Upton, McCamley, and Gokwak are major collectors. The capacity of the city's utilities, this was all previously developed. This area is all prepped for all of the utilities that they should need. And conditions have changed since the zoning ordinance was adopted, or there was an error. We do feel, in looking at the master plan, we observed that potentially there might have been an error in zoning these to T3 instead of T4. Number 6, the amendment will not be expected to result in exclusionary zoning. Definitely not. These are 16 properties right across the street from T4. Number 7, if the rezoning is requested, compatibility of the site's physical, geological, hydrological, and other environmental features. They are vacant urban parcels that were former developed sites. They're not in a flood zone, wetland, or anything like that. Number 8, compatibility of all the potential uses allowed in the proposed zoning district with surrounding uses. Well, this was zone T3 to begin with, which has, as you can see, like 40 some of the same uses right to begin with. So it's not that different. The biggest difference really is that it's more flexible in terms of some density and height. Also, a lot of the uses don't require a special use permit. They're permitted outright. Let's see, number 9. The boundaries of the requested zoning district will be reasonable in relationship to the surrounding zoning districts. I just addressed that. Number 10, if it's requested, the zoning district is considered to be more appropriate from the city's perspective than another district. Yes, this one is a nice bridge. It has fewer hoops. It's a little more intense. But it also still has the form-based regulations that go along with it. So we felt that this was definitely what the master plan was aiming for. And if this is requested, it will not create an isolated or incompatible zone in the neighborhood, and I've already addressed that one as well. So based on the above findings, planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Commission approval of petition Z522, request for rezoning of the 16 parcels identified in Table 1, all along Dickman Road, to be rezoned from T3 to T4. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak? Then I will call this a public hearing and bring him forward to comment. Please tell us, come to the microphone, tell us your name, your address, and your concerns.
Byron Day, 16 Enwood Street. I would first like to ask if it is appropriate for me to do so, as I do not live directly near nor work directly near this area. The closest I work is Jimmy John's downtown.
He didn't say so.
I do, however, bike here, as I only own a bike and do not have vehicular transport.
And your question?
If it is appropriate for me to in fact speak on this, as I do not have direct correlation.
Yes.
All right. I would like to say that I would love this sort of thing. As I said, I only own a bike. The area around this is, no disrespect meant, but is absolutely awful for biking. It is what has been noted in the book Strong Towns as a strode, a combination of a street and a road, a location made with highway-like designs with large lanes and a lot of turns, but allows cars to go in and out very quickly, which causes discrepancies with pedestrians or bikes. This sort of zoning seems to me as to more easily allow for bikes and pedestrians to move through the area, as well as make it easier for pedestrians to access the businesses nearby. That is my main point.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? I'll declare this public hearing closed. Commissioners, questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question, Susan.
Please, Mike, come up to the mic.
We just, in the last meeting, I believe we had before us at 200 Capitol Avenue Southwest, a petition for a daycare. The T4 district allows marijuana sales. How's that going to impact that, what we did at the last meeting, and approving this T4 district?
Okay. First of all, Mr. Hollander is completely aware of this request and approves of it, so he does not have a problem with it. But the T3 also allows marijuana by special use. So that is a difference.
But it's by special use and it's medical, correct? Versus adult
In
use?
T3, no, it's adult and medical.
In T3?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
By special use, correct.
But T4, there is no special use. But my question is just the impact on the daycare. And what are, with the current planning and zoning, what is the buffer or area, or what's the impact to the daycare?
So all marijuana does still have to follow the 1,000-foot buffer requirement, regardless of what zoning district it's in. The retail, the adult use, retail, and the provisioning medical both have to follow the 1,000-foot buffer requirement. I don't have a map in front of me, but currently I know there are a couple of existing approved marijuana places on Capitol Avenue. So it would be hard to imagine there's not going to be like a lot that are going to go in here, if any, because there are already some on Capitol Avenue.
Further southwest.
492 was one, I think, that was approved last spring, for example. And there's another one further north of that, closer to this area, actually.
There's one on Upton Avenue.
Yeah. So anything would have to be 1,000 feet from either one of those.
Okay, thank you.
I move for the approval of rezoning request Z0522.
Support.
The motion has been made and supported. Is there any discussion?
I forgot to add, as presented by staff.
Pardon?
I forgot to add, as presented
Oh.
by staff.
Crystal, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Godfrey?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Springer?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reynolds?
Yes.
Motion is passed. Thank you. Continuing on with the agenda. Is there any old business, Crystal?
No old business.
And new business, we have the 2021 Planning and Zoning Annual Report.
Yes, Chair.
Concise,
Of course.
very concise.
Very concise. That's my middle name. Kind of an echo here for some reason. So what you will see before you is the annual report for 2021. This report is the same format that you saw at last month's meeting and that we've used in previous years. So the formatting is consistent, and you'll find the information other than the data specific to the year to roll over as to what you've seen before. So to highlight, it does outline the work of 3 of our boards and commissions. We have our Historic District Commission, Planning Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals. To draw your attention to the planning activity for 2021, you'll find this on page 2 of the report. For 2021, we had a total of 11 items that came before the body. What this, if you look back at periods of time, you saw 7 in 2020, 7 in 2019, and 15 in 2018. So what you're seeing is us swinging back sort of to that pre-COVID era in regards to the volume of work that's coming before the body for plan adoptions, zoning reclassifications, special use permits, and zoning amendments. In 2021, in the spring, we did a group of housekeeping and map amendments and text amendments to the zoning ordinance that was adopted in December of 2020. What we found in those early months of adoption were that there were some errors in that amendment, and that there were some items that we identified that were oversights that needed to be corrected. So that was done in 2021 in those early stages. You'll find that we consistently, for capital improvement programs, those proposals, we ensure that they do meet the standards set forth within the master plan. On pages 5, 6, and 7, you will find an outline of an index report, which is a summary of the year of the items that came before the body. With regard to Zoning Board of Appeals, there were a total of 12 items that came before the body, 5 of which approved, 6 denials, and 1 appeal. So it's up to where it was again back in that 2019 period of time, that pre-COVID era. Following that on pages 10, 11, and 12, you'll see an outline of those applications for that fiscal year, or I should say calendar year, sorry. For Historic District Commission, we had a couple of items that were reviewed by the commission itself, and then we also had 5 projects that were reviewed by staff. These were those minor classes of work that we discussed where there are some items that internally staff can review and administratively make the decision to approve or deny. Pages 15, 16, and 17, and 18 are the summary of all of those items that came before that body. In 2021, we still continued our work with the redevelopment ready and being a certified community. Our site plan review, we had 23 projects that were submitted in 2021. Pages 20 and 21 list those site plan applications and reviews. Zoning enforcements, there were 221 zoning complaints and enforcements for that year, which is down a little bit from where it was in the 2017 and 2018 pre-COVID period of time. 200 of those were rental registration. In addition, there were rental registration. We had one non-conforming investigation and 20 illegal use investigations, and then 100 miscellaneous enforcements. These would be types of things such as parking, recreational vehicles, fencing concerns that get brought up. There were 1,501 permits that were reviewed by the planning department as part of the application and approval process. 908 of those residential, 244 commercial, 237 fence, 72 sign, and 40 that were related to property demolition. Building license review application, as a reminder, there are a number of licenses that the city issues that planning staff, in addition to other departments, are required to review and approve, to include liquor licenses, used car sales, secondhand goods, drop boxes, and medical marijuana facilities. So that is, Chair, the brief overview of the 2021 annual report. And just a reminder to the body, today's presentation is to receive the report, and then both last month's report, which was a combination of report of 19 and 20, and the 21 report will be presented to City Commission in report format, not in verbal format, for their receipt of those reports also.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would we want a motion to receive this report?
I think we did that last month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can have a motion to receive this report.
I'll make a motion to receive the report as presented.
Support.
Supported. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Thank you very much.
Welcome, thank you.
Comments by the public? Comments by staff and commission? Staff? Marcy?
I would just like to say this month's agenda was very full. There were a lot of very difficult and challenging rezoning and special use permits that were brought before the body. So I'd like to thank each of you for your time and acknowledgement to that, but more importantly to Susan and Travis, who worked, the last 3 weeks to compile and put together all of that data and research to bring it before you. So thank you, everyone, for that.
And I understand from that there will be more to come in November. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're actually tweaking the master plan from when we adopted it in 20, and not unusual.
Yeah.
As things go along, we find things that need to be changed.
Absolutely.
Commissioner, any comment?
Only just one quick one, and I'm just trying to remember for a point of clarity. For the term expiration, we can serve 2 3-year terms, is that correct?
It does vary by board or commission, so we would need to take a look at the bylaws. And are you talking specifically for
Planning,
commission? So we can check that for you. Marcel might be trying to do that at the moment.
Got it. Sorry, I thought that was it, but I just can't recall offhand. Okay, that's all.
Anything further for the good of the cause? If not, we're adjourned.